We have a great portfolio review for you today. We talk a lot about the new GTLDs, plus we have a classic investor-submitted portfolio, an interesting one. In addition, at the end, Jebidiah makes an interesting announcement about something new and exciting coming from Donuts. And Dave Evanson makes a fortuitous mistake because he said the date wrong at the end of the show. I'm beginning the show with the right date. Cito has an auction going on right now, including a number of four-letter.coms. It ends between, depending on what time zone you're in, between September 30th and October 1st. So check it out. Hey, Sherpa Network. I'm Tess Diaz, executive producer of DomainSherpa.com, and today we are doing a classic Domain Sherpa review. This is the show where we get into the minds of successful domain name investors using real examples so we can learn strategies and tactics to become better investors ourselves. We will do our classic 3 segments to the review. We'll start off learning what the Sherpas recently bought or sold. Next, we'll discuss and value an investor-submitted domain name portfolio. And finally, we'll preview some domains going to auction soon at NameJet.com and whether the Sherpas think they're a good investment opportunity for you. Joining us today are 3 past Sherpas and industry thought leaders. We have Dave Evanson of Cito. Hey, Dave, what's happening?
Hey, how are you, Tess?
Good, thanks. Delighted to see you and the entire world behind you on your big map.
Right.
Jebidiah Burnett of Donuts. What's going on?
Good to see you again.
You too. And Jeff Sass.club. What's happening?
Well, hello there, Tess. Nice to see you. Nice to see you, Jebidiah. Nice to see you, Dave. I've got my microphone here and my radio voice on today. Welcome to Domain Sherpa.
Will you be playing music for us later?
We're going to be spinning some great domains here today. So stay tuned.
Nice. Off to a great start. So, what's new, Sherpas? So you're going to share one purchase or sale you've made over the past few weeks, and we'll get to learn what you paid for it. But first, the guessing part is the best part. A little bit of psychology, but mostly just what's going on in the market today. So always curious to see what you guys bring to the show in particular. So who is first? Sorry, I should have that ready.
I am.
Okay, Dave, let's jam.
Okay, so Cito brokers really are not supposed to buy or sell names for itself. So I don't. But recently sold as a broker, Memento.com.
Ooh, Memento.com.
Memento.
Memento, M-E-M, not M-O-M, right?
M-E, M-E. Memento. Most people say Memento, but Memento.
Right.
Memento, yeah.
Like the movie.
I like it. And it's, has some, well, we won't talk about it yet. All right. Jebidiah, you go first. What do you think? Sold.
First. Dave sold it, so we know we're into 5 figures at least. I'm going to go. Oh. You brokered it, Dave? Yourself?
Yeah.
82.5.
Very specific. All right, 82.5. And that is a good question. Dave, are you the most senior broker at Cito?
I am by far in every way that you define senior. Especially age. But yes, we have several really good brokers, but I do think for the 10 years that I've been there, and I hit 10 years last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I could be wrong, but I do think that I was the top broker for all 10 years. I could be wrong. Certainly the last 7 or 8. But we do have some very good brokers.
Well, congratulations on both.
They're all, thank you. They're all much younger than me.
Well, you bring a lot of experience and quite the background. I love that we just updated your bio on DomainSherpa if anyone wants to look. All right, but Jeff, stop lollygagging.
Okay. So Memento is a great name. It's a name you can save and treasure, like a memento. My initial feeling was very similar to Jebidiah's in that range. So my decision now is, do I go higher or lower, a little higher, a little lower? But I'm pretty sure since Dave brokered it and it went probably to an end user, it was at the high end of what you could get for that name, because Dave, as he just told us, is the best. And
the best.
I was going to say 78,000, but I'm gonna go 90 and go above Jebidiah just for fun. So I'm going to say 90,000.
Okay, so you're both pretty close to each other. I can see a lot of business opportunity in engravings, or I had a friend who spent this past weekend digitalizing her old photo albums. And I don't know if autographed sports memorabilia falls under Memento, but I'm curious. I bet you know by now, Dave. That's what I love about brokering domains. You become an expert in the most random things. That should be a question we ask every broker who comes on. Like, what's your most interesting random niche that you know about because of a domain?
That could be dangerous. That could be very dangerous.
That's true. That's true.
That's true. That would be dangerous.
So Dave, give us the number.
So it turns out that actually it was a published sale, and it was $148,000.
Wow.
Now, I did say that I brokered it, but let me qualify that. I did broker it, but it actually was a lead that came into Cedo. You know, there's a lot of very good marketplaces out there today. At one time, I think Cedo was the only one. But our marketplace is still quite strong. You know, we have competition, but it's still quite strong. So in this particular case, a buyer came in and bid on it. But I don't remember the exact numbers, and I probably can't share too much detail, but I think the offer may have been like $25,000, something like that. But with the seller's permission, I did speak with the buyer and went back and forth between buyer and seller. It became a brokerage transaction because they moved out of the marketplace, and it did close at 148. It is an end user. I honestly don't know yet. Last time I looked was about a month ago, and they're not using it yet. I probably should have looked this morning, but did not. But I'm sure that they will use it, and I'm sure that they will be selling a lot of interesting items. And they happen to be quite good at web development. They have some other other sites. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
They are not live yet.
Right. And it's been a little more than 2 weeks. I didn't realize you wanted to cut down. It's like 6 weeks, I think. But
this one doesn't count. Another one. Do another one. The rules. Do a different one.
Well, I like this one in part because it was an inquiry that came in, and most of the time, our brokers, the premium brokers, including myself, are reaching out on behalf of a seller with the name on the contract, and we go find buyers. Sometimes I do get involved with, we do get a lot of inquiries, as do other marketplaces, and sometimes I get involved. This one, I got involved thinking that it's going to go a lot higher, and I wanted to make sure it went a lot higher. And I think, frankly, it would have been even more if there wasn't a slight spelling issue. But so I thought it was a fair price. I thought the seller was happy. The end user may have spent more than he wanted to, but their business model is such that they will make plenty of money with it.
And how was the process? I mean, were they just lowballing at $25K, or did they need some education on the domain name value?
Yeah, I don't actually remember if it was exactly $25K. It might have been a little bit higher, but I would say that they were lowballing but hopeful, and thinking that, in the economy today, with everything going on, that it may have been closer to 50,000, but it was, it was less than a third of the final price for sure, as I recall. And they may have figured that people need cash, and they may luck out and get an acceptance. As I recall, of course, the seller's expectations were higher than the final price. So it really was a good example of a compromise going back and forth, back and forth. The only thing I didn't do in this particular case, and I admit it, is I didn't go find the buyer. The buyer did come to Cito. But we were working with the seller, and we had his names listed, and he has some good names.
That's great. And what triggered it from being just the automated process? Did someone notice it? Does Cito flag that kind of thing? Or is there like a back-end appraisal versus?
It's all the above. Sometimes a buyer or a seller will reach out to a broker at Cito, either a broker that they've heard of or they've worked with, or they might even go to customer service and ask for a broker. Sometimes the seller or the buyer does go directly to a broker, like I just was suggesting. And it could be because of an appraisal that was done. It could be because they are confused about the seller's expectations, or the seller wants to know a little bit more about the motivations of the buyer, which we do not share the identity of the buyer. We don't even share the identity of the seller unless it's listed on the site somewhere on their site or who is the public. But a seller can see in the marketplace what country the bidder is from, and how long the bidder's been with Cito, and how long and how active the buyer is. On the other hand, a buyer can see, I believe, the same. Well, he can see how long the seller's been with us and how active. Now, when they come from different countries and different bidding cultures, sometimes they want somebody in between to help with, ironing out, smoothing out the differences.
Ooh, Dave, I'm curious, did the alternate spelling, because memento and momento, actually, they're alternate spellings for the same meaning. Of course, Memento is best known for the movie, probably, which was a great film. Yeah. And momento.com, excuse me, I did the .club. I did the opposite of what other people do, right? I mistook .com for .club.
That's okay.
But, did the existence of memento.com come into play with this negotiation in any way, or the fact that the similar meanings, very similar spellings, and one existed and one was for sale?
It did, and I brought it up, and I said to the seller, I'm not trying to force your price down here, but I do want you to know there's a bunch of pluses and minuses around this name, and one minus is what you just mentioned. And I said, and I don't know how significant it is for the buyer. Didn't talk to the buyer about it, but you should be aware, Mr. Seller, that that can hurt.
Did the buyer bring it up and use it as part of their negotiation, or no?
The buyer did not bring it up, as I recall, and I didn't bring it up with the buyer.
No, of course.
Right, but the seller understood. As I recall, the seller did not think it was much of an issue because it was his domain, and I didn't think it was a huge issue. But I do think if there's only one spelling, you're right. It would have been worth another. I don't know how much, maybe 20,000 more, 10,000 more, 30,000 more. Not really sure. But you're right for bringing that up, and no problem about you bringing up .club, because every time I see you, I see your club shirt, and I see you.
That's right.
And you mentioned .club a lot, so it's okay.
And I'm here in the .club offices in New York, which don't exist.
Jeff, you're a master marketer.
He is. He wrote a good book too.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, I liked it. My kids liked it too. Dave, that's a great sale. Congrats. I had a question that I lost, but if I remember it, I'll come back to you.
Easy question. Easy question.
I'll see what I can do. Jeff, what'd you buy or sell lately?
Okay, so as usual, I will mention a .club sale, and in honor of Dave's 10th anniversary, this sale was actually made by Cito. So it's probably not on your radar, so I'm not worried about Dave knowing about it. But the name is Singles.club. Singles, plural, Singles.club. And it was sold by Cito.
And I think it's fair to ask, was it a registry reserved name?
Yes, so it was a registry. It was one of our names, but we list most of our premium names on Cito as well as other places. So yes.
Okay. All right, Dave, you got to guess first now.
Yeah, I honestly don't know the answer, but I will say that that's a very good example of something to the left of the dot that works well with a new G to the right of the dot. Club's been around a little bit longer than a lot of the new Gs, but I like it a lot. There are a lot of dating sites already, but there seems to be plenty of opportunity for slices and dices of clubs or forums or societies around certain niches. I would say, I could be way off, I don't know, I'd say 30,000.
Okay. Jebidiah.
I'm going to go higher, quite a bit higher.
Of course you are.
I think that's a fantastic name, Jeff. Like Dave said, I mean, there's almost infinite uses for that right now, especially in the current trend that we're in, online, singles club, online singles club. There's Zoom dating now. There's all sorts of craziness with online things. So I'm going to say, I'm going to round it out, but I do think it was a six-figure name, but I'm going to say $100,000.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned here before, we took a lot of our five-figure names and lowered their prices a little bit to get them into the registrar channel. So this fell into that category. So that actually was a great sale for the buyer. It sold for $8,100.
Wow.
So.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Yeah, so it was a great, and it's live. It's already a live dating site already, so it's in use. But as I mentioned before, as a registry, we have so much inventory that when it comes to pricing our premium names, a lot of the great names, we've had a lot of rethinking over the years, and lately we're leaning more towards volume than high individual prices, and so we've taken a lot of names that were previously priced at $25,000, $30,000, even $40,000 or $50,000 and lowered them dramatically because we have the inventory and we end up selling a lot more of them. And for us, we want it to be in use. It's much more valuable to us in the long term if the name is out there being used than sitting on a virtual shelf somewhere.
Makes sense. Absolutely. I wonder your thoughts, all three of you, on community domains right now and updating the pricing on those. I feel like people recognize the need to update a lot of therapy domains, health and medical domains, those prices. But I know in 2019, there was a lot of talk about, community is the new moat. Everything is moving towards creating more and more community online and how that builds up your customer base, your referrals, your everything, right? Your social shares. But I think the COVID crisis has just exceptionally accelerated that. I know that, Drew and I had some talks about one of my favorite domains in the media options portfolio, and just how, I don't know, we have stuff going on with it. I don't want to say anything, but just the connection, the community. I personally think any name in that arena needs to be repriced right away. I think $8,000 is a steal.
Yeah, it was a good buy for the buyer. But again, we're happy to see the name in use. But it's interesting what you said, Tess, because actually, obviously, the Extension Club represents community and passion and people gathering around common interests. And we've seen not just an uptick in our premium name sales, but literally you could look at the charts from some of our top registrars and you can see the jump in just registration volume starting in March. I mean, literally March, April, May, June, July till now, there's a distinct uptick in registrations during this time. And I think part of that is for the reasons you mentioned, that people are building more online communities, and they're the Name.club actually fits that theme and that model very nicely. And so we've seen an organic growth since the pandemic started, which has been interesting.
Have you restructured your marketing plan based on that? Because I know you have a very specific marketing plan of making this available via every channel possible, lowering your prices to assist with adoption. Has that continued throughout this? Or
I think we've done a lot of content around websites that have been popping up using a .club name that are serving the new world in this environment. So we've highlighted a lot of businesses like Stream.club, which actually built a platform so that you can monetize a Zoom meeting. So for people giving various types of lessons from their home, Stream.club gives them a way to monetize that, using Zoom as the video chat platform, and a number of other businesses like that have cropped up. So we've certainly been highlighting businesses using a .club name that are serving this kind of new world we're entering, this hybrid market of online and not online activities coming together. In terms of repricing our names, I don't think we've repriced anything specific to the pandemic or the current situation, but as a general rule, we have an ongoing process of reevaluating, repricing names both up and down. So certain names, their prices will go up, certain names, their prices will go down, based on activity, based on trends, based on keeping activity in the registrar channel high. So it's a constant process. And over the 6 years since we've launched, our premium name strategies have shifted and changed, as the marketplaces have changed.
Interesting. So I'm on the site now, and two things stand out to me.
Which site? Singles.club?
Yes.
Just checking.
So they say they have more than 30,000 new users monthly. So it sounds like maybe a company upgrading. But also interesting, one of the primary things that they say is join the most innovating dating phenomenon. And it sounds like, again, that's a use of, and Jebidiah, I know we've talked about this, a use of a new TLD being connected to the idea of innovation. So pretty cool, pretty cool.
Tess, I'm sorry. If we have time, one more comment on this topic that you bring up, community. I think it's a great question. And definitely, as Jeff was saying, over the last several months, there's more and more domains being used for online activities around club, around community. One area which I don't think has taken off yet, which I've been wondering about, because I have a couple of educators in the family, is communities around kids, whether it's 5 years old or into high school. And I think they haven't taken off yet, but they will now. I think that as we speak, a lot of kids are learning remotely and teachers are teaching remotely. And particularly on the kids side, the younger they are, the less comfortable they have been with online learning because they're not used to it. Now they're going back to school, and the educators are much more organized and prepared because a lot of the schools went overnight to remote back in March. Had the summer to get ready. So I expect to see some kids communities, but some of them will be a lot of them will be for profit, selling tutorial services or toys for kids or things that they can do at home. So
yeah, I think that's a great point, Dave. And I think I have a 7-year-old at home, and there are already a lot of entrepreneurs that have sort of gravitated to that and jumped on that and realized, like you had mentioned, tutorials, like building learning modules online that include physical education within your home, or, we've participated in Zoom birthday parties, so the online party market, the online sort of community around children is starting to take place. which would probably lead me to something I've said for a very, very long time, and I know Tess has heard me say this as well, that updated domain extensions are an amazing opportunity for that. And I think Jeff sees that too, because, hey, if it's .pizza, it's .club, it's .ninja, it's something kind of fun, they're seeing that. And I'm working with a lot of investors and a lot of developers right now that are seeing that opportunity for kids, and legacy extensions they're not available. So, but yeah, the communities there are certainly upticking, and you're seeing a lot of entrepreneurs jumping on that, which is awesome. It's good to see. Yeah. Especially as a parent, it's nice to see.
And as you said, with the updated extensions, I like that phrase. They also can help you stand out. As there's more and more businesses going online now, that creates more and more clutter. And you're always looking for a way to stand out, and having an extension that's a little bit different or adds some flair or context to the word to the left of the dot is definitely a way to stand out.
You mean to say left.club?
Yeah, I was going to say
that. You meant to say left.club, right?
Yeah.
Just rolls after dot.
I think you're right, Dave, that it has been slower. I think that most likely it has to do with, a lot of first of all, there's just so much low-hanging fruit in general for this pandemic, but also for kids, there's probably a lot more legal concerns. I've been really surprised at how non-connected many of my 8-year-olds' friends' parents are, in terms of they've never used Zoom. They feel like it's some huge change or adaptation. And I'm like, really? So I think user adoption is a little bit larger than I thought, that adjustment. But I also think I've been talking to my kid's teacher, and they're trying to figure out how a kid can take a test in class and turn it in. And I know a teacher at another school who told me she literally is collecting papers. She has to have them sit for 24 hours, and then she grades the papers. And then she has to let them sit for 24 hours before she gives them back to the kids. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's not going to last. So I think a lot of new technologies are going to develop, but also a ton of new businesses, services. It's going to be very interesting.
For sure. Sure.
Anyway, Jebidiah, give it up. What'd you buy or sell lately?
Well, very similar to Dave, as the senior broker for donuts. We don't do a lot of buying on our own. So this is a sale that came from our team. Shout out to Blake Gomez. He's been with Donuts and Right Side since day one, and he's phenomenal. Great to work with. I've worked with him my whole career. So
what's his name?
Blake Gomez. So the domain name was IC.group.
IC.group.
Mm-hmm. Group.
IC.group.
So is that a 2-letter? The letter I, the letter C?
Correct, yes.
Interesting. Okay. I like it.
So that could be like international children.group.
Could be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. We had a big discussion about two-letter domains the last time I was on Sherpa.
IC.group.
IC.group. Okay, who do you want to go first, Tess?
I don't know. It's just killing me not to Google it, but I abide by the rules too. Let's give Dave a hard time. It's his anniversary. He's showing off how much expertise he has in the industry. Dave, you totally specialize in .coms. You can't cheat off Jeff's guess. Dave's never coming on the show again, right?
I know, absolutely. I know that Donuts and other companies that offer new extensions have had some very nice sales. Donuts obviously has so many extensions. I'm trying to think of the .group sales that I'm aware of. And IC, it is a 2-letter. You know, I was kidding when I said international children, just because we were talking about, you know, before. But I is good for International Internet Incorporated. And C is a very good letter as well. IC.group. 10,000.
Okay. So I think that this is a clear example where it has to have gone to, in my opinion, to an end user, a company that calls it, that is IC Group, right? It's just a good company. It's a good, solid corporate name, as Dave pointed out. The I and the C could stand for quite a few different things, and group is a pretty common corporate name. So I'm assuming it went to someone who is called IC Group, and therefore they really wanted it because it's, you know, an exact match to their brand. So I'll go a little bit higher than Dave, and thinking, since again this was someone who really wanted the name because it's an exact match for their brand. So I will say $22,500.
All right, I want in on this. I'm going for, oh, no, now Jebidiah is smiling. Never mind. I was going to go for like 17, but now that Jebidiah is smiling like that, I love your like mischief face.
Are we playing poker now, or is this DomainSherpa? What's going on?
I think DomainSherpa is always poker. Don't you?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Dave, right on the nose.
Really?
So yeah, this is actually a really cool deal because it was an outbound sale by Blake. The company was using a hyphenated .net domain, and they immediately saw the opportunity to upgrade, shorter, more concise, direct to what their brand is. And this was also a name where we offered premium registrations or premium renewal over time. So it had a lower purchase price, but a premium renewal. And they chose to basically buy that out. So they paid $10,000 for it, and then they have a standard renewal on the domain now. So,
after a number of years, I'll be right. After a number of years, I'll be right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wait, explain how that's structured and how that is can be an option.
So, I mean, just like Jeff said, as a registry, our goal is to get end users to use our domains. And yes, this company is called IC Group. That's their brand. That's who they are. So they wanted to use the domain name, but larger annual renewal just didn't work for them. So they offered a higher purchase price, and with the caveat of a standard .group renewal. And as the registry, we can review that, and we made the decision to accept that. So it's not like a standard line item. It's part of the negotiation. No, there has to be, for lack of a better term, extenuating circumstances or, direct conversation. You can't go to your local registrar and say, I don't want to pay that. I want to pay this for a registry name. So, and ironically, and I think Jeff might be able, I don't remember and I apologize, Jeff, I don't remember if .club has premium renewals on any of its
No, we have
anymore.
only standard renewals. Yeah.
But we've actually seen a large uptick of premium renewals being registered. So domain names with premium renewals who are aware of premium renewals, and companies actually, instead of having like one of our platinum level domains, our $50,000, $75,000 domain names, they'll take a small discount on the domain, but accept a larger renewal. So it's kind of a unique circumstance because for the first couple of years in the new program, that was not the case. And now I think just economy circumstances, people are willing to take a little bit less out of their pocketbook today, knowing that, eventually things will get back to normal and they'll pay a little bit more, in the years to come. But right now they want their brand online. They want their name online. And they want to get there as fast as possible. So, being a registry, we can work with them. But yeah, IC Group was a great deal for the buyer, and especially coming off of a hyphenated .net domain.
Yeah.
It's now it's a perfect match for their company. So.
And was there a difficult education piece for Blake with, I mean, when you just reach out, they're not even looking to fix that train wreck. And
no, I think there's a little bit of education. I don't, in any outbound sale, you're going to have to educate them why whatever you're selling them is important to them. And, sometimes it's easier than other times. And in this case, when your name is broken up by some weird punctuation mark and a domain extension that, if we're going to say com is king, net is a different court altogether. So, most people know that. And so when they can get the most concise, exact version, that education probably wasn't too extreme. It just made sense. They just needed to be aware of .group. And luckily, there actually are a lot of public .group sales. So both registry sales and aftermarket sales. So that's pretty cool. Sold.domains lists out a bunch of them. So it's good.
I heard.
Very nice.
I heard that since you joined donuts, the demand for donuts domains has really skyrocketed and prices are going up.
Yeah. Prices go up for sure, but I don't know about demand is self-perpetuating. So, but no, I think just awareness is happening, just with the circumstances in the world right now. Everybody wants to go online and everybody wants to find their own identity online. And, being real, when you do a search for a domain name, yes, you're probably going to look for .com first, and you're probably going to see it's already sold. So then a great new choice is what's relevant to me. And it can be anything, .club, .group, .pizza, we've had a lot of inquiries on .services, .live, .social, so .life, .world. They just speak to people right now, which is great.
Well, it has to do with relevance and context. And suddenly with these domain extensions that are words with meaning, not the purely generic ones,
right,
they can add real context to a domain name and to the phrase on both sides of the dot. And when I've always been a strong believer that when you can create your exact match brand on both sides of the dot, like IC.group or any of the clubs that is a real club that uses a .club, right, that's extremely powerful from a marketing perspective and saves you money on SEM and just really makes it much easier for people to remember and find you.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Timing, I'm sorry.
Go, Dave.
The timing is very good, I think, for new GTLDs, particularly when what's to the left and the right make sense together, like Jeff was alluding to. Tess brings up a good point that a lot of people still aren't aware of Zoom. I've been saying I've been involved in the space now for like 22 years. I really believe that the number of people that don't know, it seems like it. I'm talking about people that are my age, and even younger people that even know that you can buy a domain name. Some don't even know what a domain name is. Today, what's happening with the pandemic is, as a lot of people have said, the move towards online and digital is accelerating. Maybe it's accelerated by 5 years. I don't really know. But it's definitely accelerated a lot more than it has been year to year over the last 22 years, what I've seen. So some people are coming online now or wanting to open up their own shops, whatever. They may not even realize it. They probably know .com is the biggest, but they may not realize how strong .com is relative to the others. So if they see a combination of left and right makes sense, and what's on the right is any one of the extensions that you mentioned, or others, they might go for it. They may not think that they're missing out by as much as they would think maybe if they were involved in the space for a long time and only working with .com. So it's an interesting time for.
That's a really good point, Dave, because it's someone who's just first timer. They're going into the store for the first time and they're seeing what's on the shelves and all these different extensions are on the shelves. They assume maybe it was always like that. I haven't seen these in use, but I'm not online a lot. Now they don't know what the past was if they're coming to the market new. And that's what a lot of people do. I mean, I have in my own family and circle people who were never online before, never had a website, still use an AOL email address, and suddenly they've had to get domains and launch a website and do these things and bring their businesses online. So for them, it's a first-time experience.
Right. Some of them might walk into the store and see the prices and say, wow, .com is priced so high. Who would buy that? So there's a window, but the window is still open because the pandemic is not going, I assume it's not going away very quickly. Even after it goes away, if it ever does, and hopefully it will, people will remember for a while.
Oh, yeah. And the businesses that have shifted to some or all of their business online now, they're not going to backtrack. They'll be hybrid going forward. They're not going to turn off all the digital stuff they suddenly launched during this time. They're going to move into some sort of hybrid existence where it'll be a mixture of both online and offline. I see that with, doctors who suddenly are doing a lot of telehealth. They're not going to scale it back when their offices open up. They'll offer both options to their patients to come in or to do it via telehealth. So it's a hybrid future.
Well said. That's not exactly what I meant. What I meant was there'll still be new ones coming in even after the pandemic's over because they will see what happened. But I agree with that.
Yeah. I think too that going with your analogy of someone walking into a store for the first time, seeing all these options, but also, we all know we're looking at a very difficult economic future, if not present. And that's going to affect and make people more open-minded to a new TLD if they haven't seen it before, or if they aren't super comfortable, they're going to take the time to get educated instead, So, yeah. Real quick, Jebidiah, you mentioned sold.domains. I have never heard of that before. I looked it up. It looks like it's Constantinos who runs onlinedomain.com. And then, so he created sold.domains just specifically for new GTLD sales. Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's, you can do it. It's a tool I use a lot just to double check like what public sales have been done in the updated extensions. So I've never checked it for, legacy extensions or anything, but I believe it's just updated.
Okay. And just truly curious, what about NameBio? I thought NameBio had all the extensions. Do they or no?
They do. I'll admit in the updated extension world, like NameBio is a little bit behind, both from just lack of information being put out there by sellers and registries and stuff like that, as well as I'm partial to .domains names. So it's like I just go there because that's the world I live in. So but yeah, NameBio does have great information across the board. Like just like anything, as long as it's being fed the proper data, it spits out great data. I don't think it's been fed very well with the updated extensions. Interesting.
Okay. And then I'm seeing on sold.domains too, it's a great place to go probably if you're trying to educate a buyer in that space. Like he has it built out, 2020 top 20 sold domains, 2019, 18, 17, makes it, does a good education piece on the new TLDs like that. So, okay. Next we have not done sorry guys. Let's take a moment for our sponsors who support us in our mission to educate everyone in the domain industry and connect us.
FD was built by domain investors to increase your inquiries, sales, and profit. Forget spreadsheets and archived emails. Manage your entire investment portfolio in one place using a secure and completely confidential platform. Learn more at FT.com. That's EFTY, FT.com.
So, time for the domain portfolio review. It has been a while since we've done one, mostly because most of the submissions are just kind of the same. And so this one is, I think, a more quality submission. I specifically reached out to Jeff and Jebidiah because it's mostly your type of domains. And I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. I also want to give a quick shout out. This This portfolio is from Bernd in Dusseldorf. Drew was going to be on the show, but then when we had both Jeff and Jebidiah say yes, he bowed out. But Bernd gave a very special hello to Drew from Drew's wife Anna's hometown of Dusseldorf. He has fond memories of having coffee with Drew once. Anyway, he also made a generous donation to the Fred Hutch Cancer Research. Thank you very much for that. So let's do this. Jeff,
so I have a Dusseldorf connection too, by the way. My dad was born in Dusseldorf, so there.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why? How? Are you German?
Well, my dad was born in Germany, yes.
And he immigrated to the U.S.? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, they came. He was about 2 when they came to the United States, 2 years old. But he was born in Dusseldorf, and I still have some distant relatives there.
Oh, really? Did you learn German growing up?
9.
Did you eat good German food growing up?
Yes. Much too much of it. Plenty of bratwurst before I became vegan.
My son was, one of my sons was born in Germany. But it was just because I was over there. My ex-husband was in the military. But he was born in a tiny little German hospital, and it was way better than any American experience. But that's what you guys are here for, to talk about giving birth in Germany, right?
Yeah. I think you're on your own with that one.
Actually, speaking, I know Kate Buckley is like the expert on looking at words, but I love the way that Germans utilize the verb. Like in English, we say like the woman is giving birth, but in German, it's like the child is the actor of that verb. And I just thought that was so fascinating and really pretty accurate. And I think, when I was looking at the different birthing experiences, I could see like their entire mentality is different because they see it as the child being the one in that the power or movement position. And in America, we see it as like a health problem for a woman. But anyway, words are interesting, and they inform culture, and vice versa. Culture informs the development of words. So with that said, Jeff, what do you think about this portfolio?
Yeah, so I think there are some names in here I liked, and there's some names in here that didn't like as much. And it's interesting because even with the same extension, you can see examples of when it kind of works, in my opinion, better in some cases than in other cases. So, for example, .world is a great extension in a lot of use cases. And I think that obviously Sneaker.world and Vegan.world are great brands for, online commerce, obviously for sneakers and vegan. They opened up a new restaurant not far from where I live called Vegan Village. So like Vegan World, it could be, there's obviously I'm a little bit partial since I've been vegan for a long time, but those are instances where it works very well. One where I think it doesn't work as well, for example, for reasons we've talked about before, is like Baby's World. And of course, you're hearing me say it or watching me say it, but babies in this case is spelt BABYS. So it's either, it's missing an apostrophe if it's possessive, or it's misspelt if it's plural. And so I just think it just doesn't pass the radio test. And even though in theory, a Baby's World is a great concept for a brand, I feel like it misses the mark in this case because of not passing the radio test. I feel that's very important, especially now, and it's not just radio, it's podcasting, it's audio, it's word of mouth. You want a domain name that when someone hears it, no matter how they hear it, they're able to figure out and find it, very easily and correctly. And I think that one misses the boat. It's interesting, Rooftop. So that was 2 different versions with the same extension. Now I'm going to go the opposite and talk about 2 different same keyword with different extensions, right? So I liked Rooftop.party because I think, well, first of all, rooftop parties have always been kind of a fun thing. And I think now with this notion of it being safer outdoors and getting together and gathering outdoors, I think the idea of a rooftop party is actually something that could potentially become even more popular, whether that's on a personal level or a commercial level. Rooftops are going to be places that are, you can gather socially distanced and feel safer because it's outdoors. So I thought that Rooftop.party was really good. I think Rooftop.live, to just flip the keyword with a different extension, is pretty good because .live is a great extension for streaming and live names, and I see it used a lot, but sometimes it doesn't sound or feel right. Sometimes it feels out of order. But I think Rooftop Live would be a great brand for a show. And along the same lines of what I'm talking about with socially gathering on a rooftop to party, a rooftop could be a great place for a live show to happen, to occur as an outdoor venue, right? So I think Rooftop.live could be a really great brand for some type of entertainment venue or show. So I like that.
Cool. Do you have prices that you would recommend that Burnt list them for? Let's look at the 4 you talked about: Sneaker World, Vegan World, Rooftop Party, Rooftop Live.
Yeah, so I unfortunately haven't done my homework in terms of looking at what the price ranges have been for those extensions, and probably Jebidiah is in a better position to answer that question. But I don't think any of these are I don't think they're 6-figure names or anything like that, but I think they're solid brandable names for a business that would want to use them. Sneakers are a hot item, and Sneaker.world, could have some real value in terms of you can make money with that extension. So that might be worth a little bit more than the others. Like I'd probably list Sneaker.world higher than I would list Vegan World, for example, Vegan.world. So without giving a price range, I can tell you which of these I kind of would value the highest. Probably of the group, I would value Sneaker.world the highest. And maybe Rooftop.party next in line.
I love how you're just always so flexible in your thinking, Jeff. Like, well, I can't give a price, but I can do this.
And the other one, I'll just mention one more that I kind of liked too. I don't know the price range for it, but Kino.online, because number one, Kino is a great, the German word for cinema, and it's, I think, very well known even beyond Germany. And I think in Europe, .online and using online as an expression is much more popular than it is here in the States. So I think Kino.online, if someone's looking in Germany for online films and things like that, I think that's a nice. So again, it's one of those where the left and the right work very nicely together in my mind.
Yeah, and it's one where things are shifting. Like even I think it's Netflix now. You can somehow watch with a friend. I don't know how. I haven't done it yet. Yeah. What are you guys doing tonight? But well, Jeff, you're the movie expert. Have you done that?
Yes, not with some of the new services, but I've done online viewing in sync with other people before. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, all right, Jebidiah.
I don't know what else to say. Jeff is like right on point, right where I'd be. So that was fun. I'm just kidding.
Okay, then talk about.
No, I think Jeff hit. I mean, every major point that I saw on this list as well. There are definitely some names that are so close, but just a little bit off from, an investor point of view in my mind. I guess to go sort of negative, like the idea of, and I'm going to slaughter the name and I apologize. I don't speak that language, but Copenhagen, which is an island in Thailand. I had to look it up because I was thinking maybe it was, a German spelling of Copenhagen or something like that, but it's not. That I believe they were going for the Thai island there. On a .live extension is, the great idea, and I think they might have been trying to go for, there's a major moon festival there every year. But most of the search is done about the moon festival, not the actual island itself. So I think it was sort of a compromise on their end. And I think that's a dangerous place to go when you're investing on domains. If you're compromising on search or you're compromising on what people are looking at. I'm with Jeff. I loved Sneaker.world. I think that's easy, maybe with help from a broker sort of perspective, 5-figure, mid 5-figure, high 5-figure domain name. Sneakers are super hot. Everywhere you go, you're seeing sneakers at hundreds and hundreds of dollars a piece and being sold out in 20 minutes. So I love that name. I liked Vegan World also. I liked proxyserver.io for an investment capability. Obviously, .io is popular. I'd put that one probably in mid 4 figures for an asking price based on sales there. I liked what, I'll be honest, I like what Jeff said about using, when you have an SLD and a TLD, just because they're the same SLDs doesn't mean they're going to work across the same TLDs or different TLDs. I really liked Rooftop Party, and ironically, I really didn't like Rooftop.live. I think that there are some, like Jeff said, you're going to have a narrow niche of who could use the .live version because they'd have to create their own brand off of it. So it becomes a true brandable. Whereas Party, just doing a quick search, there was probably 5 or 6 pages just here in the Seattle area where it's always raining that they do rooftop parties. So I really liked that name. Trade School Online I liked, except I think you can get a shorter, better version with Trade.School. Same thing with IT Degree Online. You can get IT.Degree. Ticket Shop Online, same thing. I mean, you're adding an extra word to me. But overall, I think this is actually pretty decent list. I think it's good stab at using updated domain extensions as an investment vehicle. So I think it's pretty good.
Thank you, Jebidiah. I think, you're not being negative. I feel like he is super close. And this is something that I really want the Sherpa Network to see, because he clearly put a lot of thought into it, and he's almost there. And so I think what you said about don't compromise, when you recognize that you're making a compromise, it's probably time to not invest in that. I think 2, that's a great point. If you are already doing an updated TLD, then make sure you're not adding a word like tradeschool.online instead of trade.school. Because if they're willing to buy tradeschool.online, they'd be more willing and more interested to buy trade.school.
Well, and I'll give a piece of advice into my world as a registry broker. I look for people using names like that, and I reach out to them to sell them the shorter, more concise version. So
Ouch.
when that's what we do as domain brokers. And I think Dave would probably agree. We find people who are using domain names that can do better, and we provide better options. And that, you can sell, it would be a crappy scenario, but let's say you're in negotiations on tradeschool.online, and suddenly they get an email for trade.school. Well, one of 2 things are going to happen. You're either going to get a deal because they don't want to pay the price for the new one, or you're done, and you've sort of lost a hot lead. So we've talked numerous times in domain investing and on DomainSherpa about sometimes it's better to do more quality than quantity, and in those cases, I know some of those domain names are going to be premium names or possibly into what we would call a platinum level name. But if that's a direction, or if that's something that you think it's worth investing in, take a look at what the value is and possibly make a bigger play. Maybe not buy 6 or 7 medium names, buy 1 large name. And, definitely be more pinpointed on what you want to do there.
I don't know if this is kosher to ask, but what about world versus club? Is there, and Jeff, I think I'm asking you, like, what about Sneaker.world? Couldn't that be replaced with Sneaker.club? I mean, they're slightly different fields, but
yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Tess. There's a slightly different nuance to each one, and I think that's where the emotional side of domaining comes into play. I mean, depending on who the buyer might be for either of those names and what their intended use case or their existing brand is, one of those nuances might feel better than the other. If someone is strictly, creating a store where they want to offer all these great sneakers, they might prefer Sneaker.world. If someone is trying to build a community around sneakers where people are buying and trading amongst themselves or some more of an engaged community, they might prefer Sneaker.club. So, a lot of the nuance has to do with the intended use case for the domain, or if it just matches a brand, or it might just connect emotionally. Someone just might like the way one sounds better than the others. All of those are driving forces behind the decision-making process.
Okay.
I think that also speaks to like what I was saying about your identity online. Like, how do you want to feel about how you're conveying your brand? Jeff, I think Sneaker.world and Sneaker.club are awesome domain names. I'd give them both the same amount of credence, and it just depends on how the end user wants to use it and how they're going to brand it and how they see it. But they're both great domain names. It doesn't, I think a lot of people, if I can go a small rabbit hole real quick, I think everybody thinks that domain extensions are in competition with each other, or trying to, we're in competition per se as far as like sales and things along those lines goes. But at the end of the day, the users are going to determine what's relevant to them. And so you may not have as many domain names in a certain extension sold, but the people that are using them, that's themselves. So it's not, .world over .club isn't a competition. It's what the end user wants. So I think that's a big key that investors should actually look, oh, well, I already have Sneaker.world, so I can't get Sneaker.club. I get both. Why not? So.
No, Jebidiah is definitely right. It's we've used this example before, but it's like, looking at, there is that emotional piece. I think you look at two houses and one person looks at one house and says it's a dump, and the other person looks at the exact same house and it's their dream house. So it's the same with domain names. Sometimes the name just clicks and people feel connected to it. They like it for a variety of reasons, and that's the right name. It's not a zero-sum game, and I think that's the mistake a lot of people make. And not only is it not a zero-sum game, now more than ever there are ways to use multiple domain names. So the idea that if you're a business, you get one domain name and that's it for the rest of your life. You're going to use that one domain name for everything you do. That's not really the truth anymore. When you have in the Sneaker World versus Sneaker.club example, that company, Sneaker.world, might have this major storefront, and maybe they have a loyalty program, and that's their Sneaker.club, and they can utilize both. And, so there's just so many different ways for a brand or a business to leverage multiple online identities in relevant ways based on the names.
Yeah, you're right. And I will throw a vague shout out. But subscriptions are such a big deal as a business model, and .club lends itself more to that. .world, I love how you said it, combine the two together. But that subscription piece is a big deal, and you hear that more in .club. Dave, let's hear from you. And I would appreciate, Dave, if you don't mind me asking, I would appreciate a little feedback too about like Sunshine.world. What product or service are you going to sell there? Where are the ones where the combination may be all right, but there's not a product or service? Like, what are you going to sell? Where are you going to make money? Where's your ROI?
Okay, I'll come to that in a minute. So I can think about it as I'm talking. So it's a very good question. I pretty much agree with what Jeff and Jebidiah said. Just want to make a couple of quick comments. I usually agree with everything Jeff says when it comes to marketing. On Kino, I don't think I agree because the radio test. And Kino spelled with an E, I think Keno is a big gambling game.
Oh, you're right.
Some of the restaurants in Massachusetts, they have these things look like jukeboxes. You put money in, you're betting. It's sort of like close to bingo, maybe. But anyway, that's what I was thinking of. When I first saw that, I thought they spelled it wrong. But let's talk about Speaker World and Vegan World for a second. All three of you are probably much better than I am. I'm sure you are at pricing these domains. But when I look at something like Sneaker World vegan world, what I do is sometimes I think, since I'm old-fashioned, been around a long time, and .com's been around a long time, I think of speakerworld.com and veganworld.com. What are they worth? It's easier for me to come up with valuations when I move the dot to the right and add a .com, usually.
Sure.
And in the case of Sunshine.world, by the way, I do think world is a very good extension. I don't remember if it was public or not, so I can't say it. It was not mine, but I remember about 2 years ago, I remember who the broker was too. There was a sale, I think it was public, of a somethingworld.com for $1.2 million. And I have actually sold a couple of similar names for six figures. It's much easier, obviously, when you have an item you can sell. Vegan food, sneakers, so many vegans out there now. And even though there was some business that went with shoes.com, I think it was Walmart that paid $9 million for shoes.com about 2 years ago. Sneakers, not quite shoes, but similar. So there's a lot of value in those two names. Sunshine, on the other hand, is less obvious. Probably shouldn't say this. Back in my college days, not that I did it, but sunshine was what people, you'd smoke grass or weed. I guess they called it pot back then. Some people were using sunshine, which was LSD at the time. So I'm not suggesting you sell that today, sunshine.world. But possibly when the travel industry comes around, and it's got a long way to go, when it comes around, possibly for an agency or someone in the travel sector that wants to bring tourism to some sunny areas or a sunny area, that could work. There's probably some food products that are called sunshine something, maybe even just sunshine. I don't know why I'm thinking raisins. I don't know why that came to mind, but there's probably something there with sunshine. So it wouldn't be as obvious. And Jebidiah was talking, and I agree with the way he was targeting these names. It wouldn't be such an obvious targeting opportunity. But I would work with World to try to target, and I think about connotations for sunshine other than nice tourist spots. And I would certainly go after the nice tourist spots. Like where you are, Phoenix, right?
I do tell my relatives on the East Coast that I'm shoveling sunshine, but never quite thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be better shoveling sunshine than some other stuff people often shovel.
Yeah, that's what, they're having the worst, winter ever. And I'm like, sounds rough. I'm shoveling sunshine over here.
It's sunburned today.
in Seattle?
No, I'm joking. For you, be like, they're telling you about like their 12 feet of snow, and you're like, yeah, it's rough. I got sunburned today.
Oh, so hard. I just feel like, Dave, you were very positive, but I feel like it's that compromise that Jebidiah was talking about. Like, it's such a stretch of maybe somehow like, were you guys on that social? I'm going to have him on Sherpa soon. Jonathan Frakes he had this like chart of the longer it takes you to explain your domain name, the lower the value is. And I feel like for Sunshine World, there are like 8 billion other choices, and it's too much of an explanation, even though I think, Dave, you were really clear in like how it could possibly have meaning. And that's great as a salesman, but, I mean, I think that's where he's super close, but it's too big a stretch. Plus, don't hate me, guys, it's not a .com. Like, you can't have that many stretches. Just pick one stretch, in my opinion. But anyway, I don't want to go too long. I really appreciate you guys being here. Let's take a second, hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
FD was built by domain investors to increase your inquiries, sales, and profit. Forget spreadsheets and archived emails. Manage your entire investment portfolio in one place using a secure and completely confidential platform. Learn more at ft.com. That's EFTY, ft.com.
So, number 3, NameJet list. Jebidiah, you are up first. What jumps out at you?
Obviously, I think the single word ones are going to jump out. For you have aliens, you have yogurt.com. I think both of those are good names, great names. I liked Rojas, actually. It's kind of weird, but I personally went down kind of a rabbit hole, started like looking at, because immediately I'm thinking like Mexican food and things like that, and then I know I'll say this wrong, but it has something to do with Hindu religion as well. I think Hinduism, if I remember correctly.
Rajas, RAJAS.com.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Just for everybody listening.
Yeah. So I like that one. Obviously, I mean, short, concise, clean, and play with it. Some other ones on the list they're like went.com. I think it'll gain attention because it's short. It's 4 characters, but you went somewhere. Like it doesn't really speak to me as a welcoming brand or as a positive domain name. And most brands are going to want a positive domain name.
It's over. You missed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd probably stay. But again, I think it's going to go probably pretty high because it is a 4-character domain, 4character.com. But me personally, like from a broker perspective, I don't like selling negatives. So I'd try and stay away from that. Price points, I'm not the best at giving those for .coms on the investor level. I'll be honest about that. But I would say like aliens and yogurt, high 4 figures, you're going to invest in them. And then Rojas or Rajas, however you want to say that, like, let's go $20 because I want to buy that one. So, but no, I would say $1,000 or so maybe is probably where I would cap myself at to buy it, just simply because I like it. It's fun. But yeah, this is a pretty good list.
Yeah. And Rajas has the classic consonant, vowel, consonant, which is nice as well. Went.com, do you think, even though I hear you and agree on the negative, the past, the verb, but what about, because it's so short, either being an acronym or being like, I don't know, speaking of the East Coast, like Wentworth University, or I don't know if there are a bunch of Went blah, 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 blah. That would
or
go
W short. Entertainment.
I think you're stretching. I think you're compromising, as we talked about.
Oh, Burn.
Trying to find
.com.
That's why I think it's going to go. It's going to sell. It's going to sell for a good price, or be auctioned at a good price, and somebody's going to pay up for it. Now, I may be missing an angle that somebody else may have or something like that. But I think like when you're looking at negative style names, and I'll use an extreme example, if I may. Let's say something like the word abuse, right? Short, 5 characters, .com. I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole. I don't want any part of that domain name. And there's always going to be the argument, well, it's short and it's a .com and it's stuff like that. I don't want it. It's just, that's not a direction I want to go. Even though it may be an acronym or it may be short for W Entertainment or something like that, your brand that you're putting out there as your address is Went. Everybody will read it. Who reads English will read Went. And that's a negative connotation to me. So, like I said, it'll sell. It'll sell well. I'm sure within the domaining community, it'll change hands. It'll sell to each other and make the rounds, but I'm not sure I have a high end user that's willing to pay 6+ figures for it. So that would be my caution on that name personally. But again, I could be missing an angle.
Yeah. And I think that's where you look up the, Google search results, and basically there are none. It's all dictionary definitions of the word went. And you look up, at least US trademarks, and basically there are none. It's all went there or went fast. And, there are certain instances where it's gold and you're like, great, this is an empty slate where I can build something. But that's where you look at the full picture and combined with everything you said. And I really like your extreme example because it helps to pare it down to a less extreme example. So interesting. And of course, Jeff immediately sees W Entertainment. Jeff, your brain just fascinates me. All right, Dave, what you got?
His brain fascinates me as well, actually. I agree with a lot of the comments. Excuse me. I like aliens. I like yogurt. I wouldn't be in 5 figures. I'd be in 6 figures. Yogurt is it's not an industry, but it's a product. And I don't know how many billions and billions of dollars. So I'd be in 6 figures there. Aliens, I think, is potentially it's 6 figures, but potentially it's good for a video game. I don't think Hollywood, Jeff knows more about this than any of us. I don't think Hollywood typically pays that much for domain names. So probably if there's a movie called Aliens, and probably already is, I think there is, they wouldn't pay that much for it. But a video game perhaps, or just a cool name for doers or some kind of an agency. I actually like Went, but the reasons are, as somebody's already said, Jebidiah said, it is short. I think, Tess, you said it's one word, .com. It's one syllable, easy to spell. But I think that the potential for it, if somebody asked me to broker it, I'd broker it for 6 figures. I think that it's an example of a domain name that could mean something in another culture, in another language, and that it could be purchased in China or Middle East or anywhere by somebody with a lot of money that really loves the name. It could be any of the other reasons that were mentioned, like it's beginning of Wentworth or beginning of a name or entertainment. But since it's, it's close to want, since it's 4 letters and 1 syllable.com, I could see it being perhaps someday went to the moon, or a travel agency, or compete with UPS, FedEx, DHL, went, like ship. So I don't dislike it that much. Fitness Today, not a great name, but it's probably going to be interesting to people. I just on the news 2 days ago, I read that many, at least in Massachusetts, probably all over the country, many gyms and fitness centers are shutting down. In fact, I have a daughter in DC, and she told me that her gym just sent her an email yesterday saying essentially that they need more paying members, or they're going to have to shut down. The gym that my wife and I go to, and we have had up until April, personal trainers, which I found very helpful. They're not even having the personal trainers back yet, and they just opened not too long ago, and I think they're going to have to shut down again soon. So Fitness Today could be a good name for a trainer, someone that lost a small gym, someone that wants to do online training, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not 6 figures, but I think that somebody could get $25,000 for that. Other than that, I agree with Jebidiah's comments.
Cool. Thanks, Dave. How about you, Jeff?
My turn. So thinking of the one word domains, I won't go into when, since I think we've already went Went has come and gone. But aliens, right now, if you follow the news, there's a tremendous opportunity with an end user for aliens.com. It'll just be very expensive to get to them because they just announced that they found signs of life on Venus. So I'm pretty sure that there's a buyer somewhere out there on Venus for aliens.com. Maybe Elon Musk can figure out how to get to them through one of the SpaceX vehicles. But I think, if I were a broker, an intergalactic broker, that would be the name I would be liking the best from this list. So I think that's important. Now, yogurt is a great name, but, there is an alternative spelling. So in the UK, it's spelt with an H. So Yogurt is the dominant spelling, but there is an alternate spelling. So there is some chance for a little bit of confusion there. And the only thing I think about yogurt's it's huge industry. But is yogurt something that's sold online? Like, what's the business model behind yogurt.com? And that's going to impact the value of the name, because if you can't make a lot of money with it, you're not going to spend a lot of money on it. So I'm not sure are people going to yogurt.com to order their favorite yogurt? I don't know. So I just don't know about.
Think of every yogurt commercial you've ever seen. It's a mom on the go. It's smooth. It's skinny. It's delicious.
But there's so many brands, and what do people? What's the buying practice, right? For yogurt, I don't know. So while I like the fact that it's a one-word domain and it's a huge product, I'm not sure what the online use cases that would give that a higher value than some of the other names here. The one name I actually liked a lot that no one mentioned, which is that's either good or bad, was Parent Guide. And I was really surprised that no one mentioned that, parentguide.com, especially now with all the online learning we talked about earlier and all the different new challenges that parents are facing, that I thought just parentguide.com is a great brand for something, geared towards parents. And that's obviously very broad. It could be so many different things. So I really thought that, yes, it's 2 words, so it's not going to be as expensive. But I thought Parent Guide is a great potential brand. And just thinking in terms of brandables too, royalblue.com. I have no idea what it would be. I mean, I wouldn't pay through the roof for it, but if I could get that name at a modest price, I think that's a great brandable domain for something, because Royal Blue, it just, it's got that feel to it, and it could be applied to almost any product category. So it's a good brandable name, I thought, that no one mentioned.
Yeah, I like that one too. Nobody mentioned Love Portal. And since you're the Singles.club guy, what do you think about Love.portal? I mean,
well, it's not Love.portal, it's LovePortal.com. Yeah. Yeah. I have no comment on Love Portal. I don't know. The problem with Love Portal, the word love by itself is such a wonderful word with so many positive meanings. As soon as you add portal to it, it's unfortunately, I think, going to be perceived in the more salacious potential use case of the word. How's that for being diplomatic?
Oh, you dirty boys. Alrighty then. Good point. So aliens.com sounds like the biggest hit on this list. I love it. Jeff, are you willing to brand yourself as the first intergalactic domain broker?
Oh, if I could sell that to someone on Venus, I would be proud to do so. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll be waiting with bated breath.
But the price will be very high because it's going to have to include the trip to Venus to deliver the domain, right?
First $1 billion domain name.
Exactly.
I don't know. Do they even use money? They're probably using Bitcoin.
Yeah.
All right, we're at the end of the show. Shout outs, anybody? What's going on? You brokering anything interesting? What's the latest? Let's go Dave, Jeff, Jebidiah. Dave, you're up.
Well, CETO, there's a lot going on. In the U.S., in our Boston office, the office has been closed for 6 months, so people have been working at home. That's worked out quite well. In our German office in Cologne, I guess about 2 months ago, people started going back, but they're not back full time. It's a combination of the hybrid approach, work at home, work there. We've been doing surveys, and we haven't seen any kind of fall off in service to our clients. They understand people are working home, they're working home, so that's been good. We have some auctions coming up, probably, I don't know when this will be published exactly, but we have a fourletter.com auction coming up in about a week or so, and another great domains auction in October. We're seeing some really good submissions to that. I am focusing more on names to broker that I think fit the times. I think our other brokers are as well. A couple of them that I'm about to sign exclusive with, I can't mention, but our brokers, including myself, we have a bunch of really tempting names that we're reaching out to, trying to figure out what change there should be in terms of how you reach out and when you reach out. People are home now, so what exactly does that mean? So I've been playing around with that. I'm not quite there yet, but things are going pretty well.
That's cool. So we're filming today, Tuesday, September 22nd. It is the birthday of both Jeff and Jebidiah's daughters. So we're airing on September 28th, Monday. So it sounds like maybe about a day later, your fourletter.com is going to auction. Can you say what it is?
Can I say when it is?
What the domain is, or no?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We are hosting an auction. And in the auction, there will be fourletter.coms. Doesn't have to be words, it can be. And I think they all are starting at a minimum of $99. Okay. $99 reserves, all of them. Clearly, for $99, they're not, most of them or all of them are not going to be one word.coms, but they are four-letter.coms. And then in October is Great Domains.
Okay, very nice. Sorry, I'm laughing at Jebidiah's cat. Right, so we will keep an eye out for both auctions on CEDO. Sounds interesting. Jeff, what's happening?
Great. So we launched a new site for our super premium names with landing pages and for sale pages for them at DomainSearch.club. And one of the fun things we did a little experiment just before NamesCon. We wanted to do something for our registrar partners because we weren't going to be able to see them in person like we usually do. So we actually we hijacked one of our premium names that's for sale, Comedy.club. And this is one of the nice things about being a registry. It's easy for us to do that. So we borrowed Comedy.club, which is for sale, and we hosted a live comedy club show on Zoom for our registrar partners the night before NamesCon. And we had about 50 people in attendance live. And it was a lot of fun. We actually had professional comedians that we hired, and it was kind of a really fun show. So we've actually embedded the video of that whole show at comedy.club on the for sale lander. So if you go to comedy.club, not only could you put a bid in on that great name, but you can actually watch the comedy.club show in its entirety. So that was kind of a fun experiment.
That's super cool. Yeah. Wow, nice. Good for you. All right, Jebidiah, what are you and your cat up to?
I'm not a cat person. I want to put that out there. That's my wife's cat. That is not my cat.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, first off, happy birthday to my daughter. Love you. And,
now I think you're like, now I'm the bad dad who didn't say that. Thanks, Jebidiah. Thanks a lot.
Do your daughters
not watching?
DomainSherpa?
Sometimes.
All right.
I think, just been up to, I think like Dave said, we've been brokering some great domains that are relevant to current times. I'm really excited about that. Things like that, we talked about kids and education and stuff like that. I mean, we have .school, .academy. Those have been really popular lately. And then .live is always, it's just category killer. So those have been really exciting. Those are extensions that I have fun. Obviously, having kids, working with schools and stuff like that to help do that, I think that makes me feel good. Other than that, I mean, Donuts, we're launching .contact coming up here shortly. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be a unique launch, something that we have never done before. So I don't know how many details I can give out on that, but it's pretty exciting. Other than that, getting used to like NamesCon trade shows and stuff like that. Obviously, Donuts being involved in numerous different verticals. We attend trade shows in all sorts of different ways lately, which is pretty cool. So we have one here in Seattle that I'll be attending later today, obviously via online. So it's just kind of an interesting time, and I'm glad to see that most people are able to take it on. So and work with it. So yeah, that's what's going on. Excited about it. So.
Fantastic. .contact, you have any idea when that's going to launch?
Yeah, soon.
All right.
I think it's within 30 days from us filming now. So, yeah. Be on the watch for it, though. You'll hear about it for sure. And like I said, it's a very unique launch that Donuts is doing. We're very excited about the extension because there's just great, unique ways to use .contact. One of the biggest things that we've seen lately is, what we consider online business cards. Everybody's just sort of putting their name and number out there, being in contact with everybody. And so there's great opportunities there for investors and end users with this unique launch. So I'll leave that dangling for everybody.
Ooh la la.
For our friends on Venus too. I want to put a bid in for aliens.
Yeah, so
contact.
like first
aliens
contact, make
yeah.
contact. Yeah.
Oh my God, you guys. I think we should end this with to infinity and beyond, or like to the internet and beyond.
How do you do the Spock thing? I can't do it. My fingers don't work.
All right, okay, this is the one. Mike Tiger
Live long and prosper.
Like every time you start and finish a Domain Sherpa, you need to do the hand. So, all right, Jebidiah, this time. All right, everybody, bye Sherpa Network. We'll see you all next time.